From one law enforcement agency to another, warning, some of those images may be tough to watch. This morning, new details on former Deputy Sean Grayson's troubling history in law enforcement. 30-year-old Grayson worked at 6 police departments in 4 years.
7 months on, how are you still employed by us?
I don't know.
That's Grayson in a 2022 recording responding to his then boss, Deputy Chief Nathan Miller at the Logan County, Illinois Sheriff's Office, questioning him about his mishandling of a traffic case.
Do you understand that's a violation of pursuit policy?
Yes, I do.
Grayson was accused of violating department policy and submitting inaccurate reports.
But a lot of officers have been charged and end up in jail because that's what they perceived. Official misconduct will land you in jail.
Grayson's integrity also raised.
Others will say you have no integrity and you're lying. I'm calling you on your integrity. How does that make you feel?
I'm learning from it. I don't get angry.
Logan County eventually terminating Grayson.
If we can't trust what you say and what you see, we can't have you in our uniform.
Grayson now behind bars and charged with murder for the July 6th shooting of Sonya Massey in her home near Springfield, Illinois. Massey called police to report a possible prowler. Things quickly escalate when deputies told her she could remove a pot of boiling water from the stove.
Where are you going?
Away from your hot steaming water.
Away from my hot steaming water?
Yeah.
Oh, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
I
rebuke you in the name of
You better die. I swear to God, I'll shoot you right in your face.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Drop the pot! Drop the pot! Drop the 19 shots fired. Shots fired! Shots fired!
Grayson has pleaded not guilty. Massey's heartbroken and angry family now wondering why Grayson was able to jump from department to department. Her father speaking to ABC affiliate KATV.
Our whole family is in a disarray. The main focus of everybody is that this animal gets justice. He gets exactly what he deserves.
Overnight, the Sangamon County Sheriff apologizing.
I'm sorry. She called for help and we failed her. That's all she did. That's all she did was call for help.
And Grayson was also discharged from the Army for serious misconduct. He is being held without bond. His attorney declined to comment. Robin?
Also, he was charged with 2 DUIs as well. The more you learn, the more questions that we have. Now, how he was able to keep a job like that. Okay, thank you so much, Alex.
The biggest thing on the autopsy are the findings, and we will go through those. The conclusion is based on the information available to me and on the autopsy findings. It is my opinion that Sonya Massey, a 36-year-old black woman, died as a result of a gunshot wound to the head. And then it goes on to in more detail. And it says the gunshot wound of the head, A, the entrance was beneath the left eye. The injury, proliferation of the left internal subra. Now I'm looking at this word because I know it's not subdural artery, but it's an artery that is the blood vessel right beneath her eye. The exit, posterior left surface of the upper neck. Associated injuries, skull fracture, subdural hemorrhages. Direction, front to back, downward and slightly right to left. Range, no soot or gunpowder stippling on the skin. If you could turn it over. And I would tell you they had an anatomical model that is very important. Here, obviously, we have Sonya Massey with her beautiful smile. But you have, as they said, the injury right beneath the left eye. And then they talk about how the exit is posterior left surface of the upper neck, below the ear, below her hairline. Now, why this is so significant, is it confirms that Deputy Sean Grayson shot in a downward trajectory.
Welcome back to Breakdown Friday. Joseph Ward, Patrick Irvin, Professor Carl Tone Jones, and we are giving our 2 cents on the Sonya Massey execution assassination incident that happened on July 6th at the hands of Deputy Sean Grayson. From what we've learned about Grayson is he has a troubled past as a law enforcement officer. 6 jobs in 4 years.
I could divide.
I'm just saying, you know. So there are a lot of moving parts in this, and then there are not. I saw a video the other day when it was examining the tattoo on his left or right arm. So according to the tattoo, or according to the people who know about tattoo, I don't know about it, but it's supposed to be having him connected to a white supremacist group. So that stokes the fire of people believing that this assassination was racially motivated. I don't think that race was the overall motivation. I think he was just a horrible person, but we do have to examine everything that goes into it, because there, like I said, there are a lot of parts that, and then there aren't, because there are a lot of cut and dry evidence as well. So we know this is something that it can be an emotional sore spot for a lot of people. But also, one thing that we also want to look at is how this story is used in the media and used within politics, especially for right now, to help people push their agendas, which I think is horrible. But overall, we want to just examine what happened to Sonya Massey and why it happened to Sonya Massey. And, you know, going back to why we need each other and why we have to learn how to protect ourselves a bit better. She was by herself. And, you know, it's unfortunate that she was in a situation where she called for law enforcement to come check out noise that she hears around her house. And then she ends up losing her life because of bad cop work. I've seen a lot of videos from different law enforcement officers around the country, all giving their opinion on it. I only saw one person trying to defend it, and it was a black woman. Make of it what you will, but for the most part, all officers were saying that, first of all, that was in there too long. They handled that wrong, and that was a non-lethal situation that ended up being lethal. Because I just don't know how hot water that you told her to get off the stove is a weapon that makes you think that you should fear for your life as a grown man with a gun on your hip. So, yeah. PC, man, go ahead and start with you, my brother. What do you think? What are your overall thoughts about the Sonya Massey situation?
Well, first of all, you know, my condolences to her family. You know what I'm saying? Because this situation shouldn't have never happened. I think it goes beyond saying it should have never happened. But you know, prior to this, she had already made like 2 mental health wellness checks, wellness calls to the police, if I'm not mistaken. And her mother even got on the phone and said, you know, if you send somebody to the house, please make sure that, you know, you send somebody who is not prejudiced or bigoted because her daughter is terrified of racist cops.
Hmm.
So, you know, you know, you have to wonder, you know what I'm saying, what preceded this in terms of even this degenerate even ending up in her house.
Right.
And you know what I'm saying, for and I'm gonna throw it on the I think race it does play a factor because I don't think he would have done this to a 90-pound white woman had she been in there with a pot of water. You know what I'm saying? I think his whole demeanor would have changed, you know. Um, and I know she probably, you know, tugged on his demonic spirit by saying she rebuked him in the name of Jesus, because that seems to be what triggered him more than
Yeah,
anything else.
I've heard a lot of people make that. Oh, I have heard a lot of people say that because you're right. That is what triggered him. Her saying, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." She said it twice. Then he got mad. "I shoot you in your face." So
Right. So, you know, when you know what I'm saying, first of all, it was a cowardly act.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? There's no justifying it. There's no rationalizing it, you know, for what it was. She called the police to do a perimeter check of her house. They didn't need to come inside her house. You know what I'm saying? To come inside of the house was
right.
something, even if they came in the house to look around, they didn't come in the house to look around. They didn't look around. You know what I'm saying? And then not only should Grayson be punished to the fullest extent of the law, which I thoroughly believe has a lot to do with this election cycle that he was actually even charged, because I think Illinois is one of those swing states and actually had, I think they just had the Democratic convention in Chicago.
Yep, 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 yep,
So,
yep.
you know what I'm saying? So they couldn't afford for in Illinois for there to be, you know, turmoil over a black woman. Like they're talking about empowering black women and, and all this other stuff with this election. They couldn't afford to not address somebody shooting a black woman in the face in
And
cold blood.
right. And to real quick to that point, I've heard people complain about Trump not addressing it, and that them for them that being a knock against him. But a lot of these people want to go vote for him anyway. But I've heard a lot of people say that they were mad that he didn't address it. I think the Democrats did address it
Hmm. I believe so, and it's part of their, you know, they have to address it. You know what I'm saying? They're running on a platform of empowering black women. They better address it. Um, so I just think that in regards to this dude, you know what I'm saying? I'm not sure how much you want me to get into this now, but you know, this guy Sean Grayson, as you know, led with the clip, he's been in 6 different police departments in 4 years. Not only that, he was questionably discharged
from the
enough from
military.
the army, yeah, from the army, just enough to get his, to keep maintain his benefits, even though allegedly he has 2 DUIs
Right.
during that. Now, I- in regards to that, you know, because let me see, let me not Ben Trump this. Let me make sure I get the words right in terms of the name of this police department. All right. I think it's Sangaran or Sejman, the Sejman
Too late. Too late. You can't
yeah.
even.
Well, no,
Too
I got the
late.
whole word out though. The
You got
Sejman
you
Sheriff's
got crunk.
Department. I got Trump.
You big
It's
crook.
the gong. The Sejman Police Department, the Sheriff's Office, said that they didn't know that he had any background, like any of his previous um, um, anything previously on his record, negatively on his record in his background. Which, when you just saw, we saw an interview with him in a
Yeah, and a
former police
superior.
department where they was questioning his integrity because he
And his
was lying
character.
on police reports.
Right.
Yeah, and turning his character. So you got that. You got the DUIs. Then you got the harassment. He's been harassing people. He harassed a couple. He also harassed, I believe, the mother of one of his children. So he's been overly abusive with his force. Those are all things that are on his record. How
Yeah.
did it not get passed down to his current job? You know, at the
What?
Sedgman, the
Well,
sheriff's department.
if you get 6 jobs in 4 years, they're not really looking at your record because it was another I guess accusation of him eyeing a young. It was an inmate or lady who was being arrested. He was eyeing her while she was changing nude, and because several complaints from men and women.
So for me, I work on a college campus. Pat, you work on you work within the behavior and mental health field and as well taking classes. Joe, you work in a field where you have to go into college campuses. So we all have to have clearances that we have to pass in order to have access to these places.
Yeah.
We have to have child abuse clearances because sometimes we deal with people who may be under 18. So that comes from the state. We have to have FBI fingerprint scans to make sure that we haven't committed any crimes. All right. That's national on a national database. We also have to have state police clearances to make sure that we have not been arrested within those particular states we work in. All right, and we don't have any offenses in those states. So if all three of us who don't have to carry a firearm for our particular job, who don't have to, don't have the authority to arrest anybody, have to have those particular things. One has to wonder, how did the current sheriff that he works for did not know? Like, how did you not know that he didn't have all these discrepancies on his record prior to coming into your police department? When, as a police officer, you're supposed to go through an enormous amount more scrutiny than what we go through in terms of being hireable to your position.
Because they did half-ass jobs of vetting them, and then that's how you get his superior having that conversation with him after he done messed up because they didn't do a good job vetting these cats.
But see, I'm wondering, do this man like we need to do a background into his background. We need to do a deep dive. Who
That's
does
what I'm
he
trying
know
to do.
that keeps allowing him to get these passes? Why wasn't he given a dishonorable discharge in the military? Why was he allowed to apply for 6 different police departments in 4 years? Who is greasing the skids for this dude? And then you see his demeanor. You know what I'm saying? So who's working behind the scenes?
Well, a lot of people would say white privilege is his calling cards.
This is beyond white privilege, though.
We know.
It happens.
We
it
know.
happens. The cop that shot what was the child up there
Tamir Rice.
Tamir Rice. The cop that shot him also switched police departments right before that because he had shot somebody else. The cop that shot John Crawford up in Beaver Creek, Ohio. Second time he was in the police department because he had, shot somebody else. So we know that this happens, and this is the culture. But at some point, we have to look at, and I'm talking about us as Black people, we have to be have more intent on taking an interest in learning the backgrounds of the people who govern the areas that we live in. And I'll land my plane there.
See. Yeah, you talking about homework. Come on, peace.
Yeah.
Homework. But you're right. But you talking about homework. Okay. All right, Pat. What are your thoughts about the Sonya Massey shooting, Grayson, his background, all those things? Like, what's your view on this?
So this comes at a particularly interesting time for me because bit of self-disclosure in my last few days. I actually went out to see a particular client who is has borderline personality disorder, schizophrenia, and a couple other things. And she behaves very similar to what I've read about the behaviors of Sonya Massey. And she got into an altercation, and the cops were called out. And by the time I showed up as her case manager, social worker, if you will, there were 4 cop cars, 6 cops, a mob of people, and she was in the middle of them all, threatening to do harm to anybody that came within a certain range of her. Nobody was shot.
Thankfully. What color was she?
She was not my complexion. We'll say that.
She was a white woman.
So the Sonya Massey thing hits a little bit different for me right now because I went through a situation a few days ago that was almost verbatim in terms of behavior of the person the same, except for in this case, there was a lot more potential violence because there were active threats of harm. And I understand it's different scenarios. You can't one for one these things. You know, my biggest beef is always we try to like focus on the instead of focus on the bigger picture. So I get that, but I'm going ahead and stating that as a clear indicator that this story hits me a little different right now because of what I just went through. So it's actually something I've been meaning to call both of you brothers about to just kind of talk through it. But both of you brothers have been busy with dealing with your own things. So that's, you know, and I'm saying that because this is the first time both of them have heard this story too. Usually we talk about what we're going to talk about and ain't nothing new really said unless I say something crazy or PC decide to drop an extra cuss word. But so this is new all the way around. So when I'm looking at this story, the first thing I'm thinking is first, if I read correctly, she sends her kids to live with their father, responsible on her, while she signed herself into a 30-day treatment clinic. And then she checked out. Excuse me. She checked out after 2 days. Okay. Her mother sends the note saying, calls in to say that my daughter is having a mental breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's the first breakdown. That her mother had no choice but to call the police and beg them not to harm her daughter because they needed to go out and check on her. Why are the police doing these types of visits?
Well, because these people are behind the damn times, and they ain't got their stuff together. That's why you got the sheriff of that, or the lieutenant or the captain, whoever at the top of that, doing his like half-ass apologizing, but they clearly don't have their stuff together.
But this, to me, this is, and I agree with you, but this is like a structural issue where I think about it and I'm like, all right, if the police are going to be militarized and the police are going to be viewing everybody as a potential combatant, because I'm also thinking about the narratives. This narrative that my safety as a police officer is paramount, and anything that you do to threaten that, I can use whatever force necessary to stop you from bringing me harm. So it's not even necessarily about equalizing the threat. Like if you threaten to do physical harm to me, I threaten to do physical. No, now it's about I get to do whatever I need to neutralize the threat, no matter what the threat is. And so now we have this problem where it's like, all right, there needs to be a non-combatant that comes out on wellness check calls. First off, needs to be a whole separate organization doing wellness checks to begin with. But if we're going to leave it in the hands of the police, there needs to be a non-combatant handling that.
To that, you made me remember, to that point, to your example. We had a patient who came into our office and the patient was threatening bodily harm and self-deletion. So, of course, we had to make the call. So we made the call, but what I was happy about, and this was one of us, a black lady, and a mental health expert came out with the police. We in the Bible Belt South. Like, if we can do it, why they ain't doing it?
Yeah, that should be a whole. If we're gonna leave that in the hands of the police, PC is a therapist. That should be a position he could have. If he not saying PC, you go do it, but I'm just saying that should be a position available to him as a therapist. Be responding to wellness whenever there's a wellness check. Hit his jack. Hey PC, we got a situation over here, 1096 over here. Can you meet us at the scene? Yeah, I'll meet you there. Right, you take the lead. We won't go in. We won't engage. We won't interact at all until you get here. We're your backup. And then they just sit outside and wait for PC to show up.